This video is a continuation of the previous one, What is Sentence Building? So if you missed that, make sure to check that one out first. And this entire series was from a previous live stream, which if you want to catch my live streams, make sure to subscribe. But let me not waste any more of your time. Let's continue with the conversation. Here we go. Easiest thing for me to say are phrases that I've internalized. Absolutely. So rather than, because if we don't internalize and use these phrases in these chunks, then what we're often doing is saying, okay, I want to tell my friend that I want to go to the beach. So, okay, and then to want. Okay, how do I conjugate to want for I? Okay, I want, and then to go. So the dictionary form, and like you're literally piecing together this sentence, and by the time you say it out, it's like 3 minutes later. Rather than, having a chunk in your mind, I want to go. I want to see. I don't want to go. I don't want to see. I don't want to visit. Having those chunked in your mind as a set phrase. And I haven't done this lately, honestly, but in the past, I definitely created my own phrase book where I would write these things down and I would say them out loud to get used to hearing it together so that whenever I needed it, I wasn't conjugating the verbs because I knew when I wanted to convey me wanting to do something, it was this phrase, not these 4 words strung together. So it's very, very helpful for that. I think that was the only really big mistake that I wrote down. But yeah, just don't rely on translation too often or for too long, and really give yourself the same grace as what we do in English, and knowing that it's okay to play around with the sentence and have a little fun. I have made more serious sentences when I'm practicing, and I have done more silly sentences. In college, me and my friends, when we were learning Japanese together, we would literally take like all the vocabulary in the chapter and try to make one sentence out of every single vocabulary word. It was a really long sentence. It didn't make logical sense, but every word was used correctly. And then we would like show it to our teacher and be like, look at the weird sentence we made for this chapter. She would get a giggle and be like, that doesn't make sense. But it was good practice for us because it forced us to conjugate. It forced us to modify sentences. And it was fun because, again, we have to make these things fun as much as possible. So how do you do it? Well, I break it down in full in my course. So if you want that, the Sentence Building Pro is the course and it's literally just $9. But long, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Simplified version of what I teach in the course is essentially find sentences that you want to learn. So do some sentence mining. You can find sentences that are using grammar that you want to learn, vocab you want to learn, etc. Record them somewhere. So write them down somewhere, put them in a Notion template, write them down in your notebook. You can even have a log on your phone of recordings, and then use those sentences as a model to make more sentences. That's really the core of what I teach, but I break it down further and I give a lot more examples in that program. And like I said, I created it for the me who was like, I will not continue this cycle of Russian, saying I can't use this podcast until I understand more, but I can't understand more until I do not want to continue that cycle. And so far it's been really helpful. Like I've been building my own little phrase deck in Notion and just writing out things in Russian. And then what I've been doing personally is I have done some translation strategies. So translating the Russian into French, because that's my laddering structure. If you've never heard of laddering languages is essentially using a non-native language to help you learn another. So French is my language that helps you with my Russian. So if I don't understand anything in Russian, I look it up in French. And so I was writing translations in French, and then I would take the sentence and really just play around with the structure and the sentence, the parts, because I know what the parts are. I just need more practice in using them, especially because foreign language like Russian that has cases, I still am like, I kind of know what these cases are, but sometimes, most of the time, I still don't fully get it. So this has been really helpful because I feel more confident now. I feel more confident now with the Russian cases, for example, than I did 2 months ago when I was still procrastinating with my Russian studies entirely. So I hope that that's helpful, just as like a connection to know that you are not alone in trying to figure these things out. testing out doing themed months. In November will be writing month. Nice. Definitely going to dive back into the sentence course. I'm so excited to hear that. And I have to do like a refresh because in the community we're doing, this is like the last week of the sentence bingo challenge, I guess we'll call it. But yeah, I have to figure out. Actually, I was gonna try to do another live this week, crossing my fingers, hope I can, because part of what I wanted to focus on was creating my schedule for my own language studies for the next quarter, because we finish September and then we'll be in the October and November, December, which is Q4. And I have to figure out what this is going to look like and be really strategic. So yeah, I don't know what my theme for this quarter is going to be. I might switch around what languages I'm focusing on. I have to do some reflection before the 30th. Yeah, which is Saturday. Okay. But that's kind of what I'm focused on right now. It's like, these are my strategies I know I love. And so if they feel supportive for the goals that I have for, my guiding principle, my why for learning and all those different pieces, then I'm going to incorporate these into my plan, into my schedule, into my routine. But sentence building is probably going to be one that I keep because I personally underestimated the power of that. Comprehensible input I do anyway. Like, it is my go-to. I just listen to things that are just above my level, or I'm reading things that are just above my level. Like, sometimes I'm reading fan fiction in, like Spanish or French, and I'm like, I get to read fan fiction about my favorite show, and I get to do it for, language practice. Any way that I can incorporate language learning and my hobbies, I find a way, which is also why I love playing video games in other languages. So that's also my comprehensible input. Video games in other languages, music, podcasts are my go-to, and sometimes fan fiction, but not often. Because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to have to struggle through the story to like get through it. I'm going to just like pick up this book instead and I'll read through that. And then shadowing is something that I do with podcasts. I haven't, I guess over the past year or so, I haven't had a formal reason to focus on shadowing, but sometimes when I'm listening to content, I'll just start shadowing. Like I said earlier today, I was listening to 2 podcasts in Japanese and I just started shadowing what she was saying. It's like, I don't understand every word. There's a couple words she used that I was like, I don't know. But just the practice of speaking and saying what she is saying is helpful to me, especially because Japanese is a language that I don't speak as often as I used to. Like in college, not only was I taking classes, but my friends and I were so, honestly, obsessed that we would speak the language for almost 12 hours every day. It was like we were living in Japan because we made an immersion for ourselves. We would talk to each other outside of class. We started a Japanese language and culture club. Like, we did all the things to make it a part of our lives. So we were talking in Japanese. We would be hanging out, on the lawn, talking in Japanese, texting each other, everything. So I went from this heavy immersion to solo just because we didn't have the same, circumstances. We're not going to classes and doing all those same things anymore. And it's a little tricky when that situation switches. So now I got to build it back up, but it's going to happen. But I think I've talked about my 3 topics. Now it's just like free time, I think. So if you have any questions, maybe about the 3 strategies I shared, so comprehensible input, shadowing, and sentence building. If you are not sure of how to use them, or you have clarifying questions like, Bront'e, in this specific context, what would you recommend? I am all for additional questions while I finally drink some water because I've been talking the entire time. And for those of you who have been hanging out this entire time on TikTok and on YouTube, appreciate you guys so much. And if you've missed any part of this live, don't worry, because what I tend to do is I will cut up this longer video into smaller pieces and it'll be posted on my YouTube channel. So you might already see on my channel, we're almost finished with the second live that I did. The first one was on laddering languages and study audit. So how to audit your studies, figure out what's working and not working, and then the laddering strategy. The more recent one was on, I think it was building your confidence. As a language learner, how to restart your language studies and study schedules, the 4 type of schedules that I recommend and teach, you know, when it comes to creating a schedule. So check those out. Definitely look up those. And then these videos will at some point be available on my channel in the future.